We're on the record, May 7th council work session. We have the SAFE program and the SSMP program beginning by Jennifer Garbley and Jeff Tolentino.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So this is an annual report that we're required to do actually by code for our SAFE and our SSMP program. I do want to give you a heads up. I don't know why we always did it in the springtime, but that's kind of just how it was set up. And this is a report for fiscal year 2023. So it's awkward because it's like, this was a while ago, right? So we're going to move it up though and do it either December or January for 2024 to kind of get it a little closer to the end of the fiscal year. Yeah, it's always a little awkward for us because we do construction through the summer. Typically, all projects usually go. So we're constantly kind of like, wait, was that done this fiscal year, this fiscal year? So it's a little awkward for engineering, but we make it work. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the SAFE program was established, and the goal was to accomplish the priority 1 and 2 projects within a 20-year planning horizon. That was like the original SAFE program. I just wanted to start there first because it's like, hey, okay, that's our goal. That's how we're set out to do. We first established that B and how we were going to move about.
The SSMP program is also part of this presentation. It's a separate program, and its intention is to provide street surface maintenance. That's SSMP is a street surface maintenance program. The goals are to increase it's called the pavement condition index. I can't see the whole thing here. We're going to be referring to PCI a lot, but that's what that is. It's an index that basically tells us how good of a condition a roadway is. So 100% is a brand new roadway. 0% is like basically just a totally destroyed roadway. Major streets, we would like to have, per the SSMP goals, 75% or above for the PCI. For non-major streets, it would be 70%. And then we also want to prevent any street from deteriorating to the point of requiring reconstruction. So prioritizing crack sealing or slurry sealing or other types of rehabilitation projects before we get into a full reconstruction of a road. And then we had a list, a 10-year project list that was set up for this program to complete, and we're down to one project or one project left, which is essentially Harvey Street. That's slated for next summer for construction.
So that's the only street left from the original list?
The original list. All nine. Okay.
Because the original list was collectors and arterials. And I noticed that you're spending the money, like the thing in our packet for later, you're spending it on some neighborhood streets. So we have money beyond collectors and arterials?
Well, actually, I mean, yes, but at the same time, we're letting our local roads completely deteriorate to get to the point of needing full rebuild out. So that's the problem. We don't want them to get any worse.
Yeah, right.
They're really closer to like a 50, right? And we want to bring that back up. Average wise. Some of them are down around 30, to be honest. So it's really trying to save those roads before they go completely.
Well, kudos to you guys for getting it done, because I remember when Chuck Eaton came here and said, without more money, we're not going to get to local streets. So you guys have somehow made it work to do those streets. But yeah.
So I think one of the big things that we've looked at is, yes, maybe they're down at a 30 and it should be a rebuild, or instead we're doing a grind and inlay. So we're giving it more structure, but we're not completely rebuilding it. And so we're able to do more streets by doing a grind and inlay. So that's really what we've initiated in this last biennium budget cycle, right? The residential surface repair, which is a grind and inlay, basically. And then upping our crack seal program and slurry seal program dollars to try to get them before they start going too far down where we have to do a grind and inlay. And then we're reducing how many we're actually redoing completely.
So when you do a grind and inlay on one of these streets that's at 30, how far up do you take the PCI when you do that?
I actually don't know that answer right now. I don't, I haven't actually dug into the program. So I'll have to ask one of my techs that's actually managing it. But it definitely brings it up significantly, more so than a slurry seal. Slurry seal is like kind of like a 5 points, 5% maybe. The grind and inlay, you're actually putting structure on the street, which will last longer. Now, that street still, I mean, I'm hoping because they're low volume, we'll get like 10 years out of it and not 5. And that's what we're kind of looking at right now, right? So those first streets that we've done, we're going to keep an eye on them, see if we're actually getting the lifespan that I'm hoping to help continue this process.
So if I'm getting ahead, just say, hold that thought, but I mean, how many streets are like at the 30 level or how many miles are there? Some number that I can kind of put my head around.
We could get that for you. I don't have it today.
Okay.
The next slide has a little bit of that information. It's not a full.
And I don't want to get too ahead because I had some same questions Robert had, but is filling a pothole, that's not considered a slurry seal? Yeah, it's very different, okay.
I mean, that's a maintenance ordeal, depending on how many potholes you have, but a slurry seal goes over the entire surface of the roadway from edge to edge and a distance. And it's basically you're putting a coating on. And the part that it helps with is if you start getting cracking, it helps you crack seal that and then you seal the road so hopefully the cracks stop becoming more extensive.
So that's different than when I see like what looks like a black sealant that has gone through a crack, that's different.
The crack seal. Slurry seal often is put on top of that crack seal and it just covers the entire sidewalk to sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
In the case of my street, like they repaired some of the cracks and then came in later and did the slurry seal and really did a good job.
Okay. Thank you.
So our next project is going to be coming to council for contract award for the slurry seal. Got a great price again. That was a joint with Hillsborough, and we're doing another 6.7 miles. So super exciting, but $250,000. I think we have $500,000 actually set up. So we're to a point where about 6 miles is about where it's kind of where we can get all the crack sealing done on those streets so we can slurry seal them. So there's like a little bit of a process there. But we're getting better and better. So that's exciting.
This next slide gives you a little bit of information, Councilor Massey, on the percentages of what our street network is and the PCIs related to each roadway type. So this is broken into at the top, arterial, collector, and neighborhood local. The middle line, city network, has the percentages of each of those street classifications represents for the whole entire network. So 10% of the network is arterial roads like King. 30% are collector roads, say like 42nd or 43rd. And then the remainder is, the remaining 60% is neighborhood local streets. The PCIs are just above that. So arterial roads, these are averages. We're right around 67%. Collectors 53, neighborhood locals are also 53. And we have a little bit of information at the bottom of what the trends are for those. Collector and neighborhood local have been floating right about the same. Really, the arterials have been right about the same too. I think they went down from 68 to 67 this year, but there's a small decrease there. Part of that is related to us getting back and updating the program that tracks our PCI numbers. So it takes us time to get those once we complete a project to update our Street Saver program that catalogs all these. So there's a little lag there.
So I'm a little surprised that collector remained the same, if this was for 23, you did 43rd, you did home.
Yeah.
And you've done,
I think that's a pretty good route.
Oh, I mean, it's
okay.
in the collector.
I would say you also, I mean, we've got like Monroe Greenway coming up, right? That's a collector. King Road, there's your arterial, that's gonna get updated. And then this doesn't include the 2023, what we call grinded inlay, because it was actually finished in fiscal year 24. So that's another mile of grinded inlay projects, right? So there's some things, yeah, you're looking at it kind of a little bit further back. We're almost in 2025, like we're close, right? So.
The way PCS work too is just over time, those numbers drop down. Like they can just sit out there and nobody can drive over the road. But it's just the way the PCI index is calculated, it's just the amount of time it's been out in the wild. So if you haven't driven over the road, it's still getting rained on and snowed on and ice, freeze-thaw cycles and all that.
so the PCI, I remember several years back, we hired somebody to actually go out and
Yeah.
eyeball it or whatever. And then after that, it's just a formula that.
We've been updating it, right? And so we either need to, I was hoping I could get staff to be able to do that work instead of hiring out a consultant. It's about 50 grand. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's 50 grand to think anyone else to do. So we've been short staffed and it hasn't been a priority to be able to do it, but that work was done in like 2019, I believe. So when you go back and check it, you kind of do a restart on the program. And so then it resets kind of, oh, you're at this PCI. And so the curve changes and you've got more data in that. So it gives you a better kind of ranging. So we need to decide if we're going to, one, hire someone because we can't get to it, or dedicate staff to be able to do it.
So I've also read about apps or something that's like on your phone, like you put it in the public works crew or whoever's phones, and it actually is just measuring vibration level as they travel around and measuring the condition of streets that way.
Oh, that's interesting.
I haven't
I've never
heard
heard
about
of
that.
using that. Okay. I read about that a few years back and I thought it was an intriguing idea.
Yes.
My question was kind of to the mayor. So like I had seen the map many years ago when we were getting into this. There was a map of the whole, right? And you had all the pieces. That's updated by your department every now and then when you do a project, or do you
Yeah,
do
we
some
update.
sort of yearly scan of the roads, or is that
No,
the
we
consultant thing you're talking
When
about?
we update when we come through and like do a grinding inlay, like the previous one has been done, but we're looking at data
Several years
from
ago.
several years ago,
Right.
right? But you need to do an overall look at all the streets, right? And update those conditions and see where there is, because the program is assuming a certain degradation.
Yeah.
And it's probably less than what it should be because it needs more data points. We need more points in there.
So that's why the staff report had the years, like after so many years, it just drops to a percent, it just, as you were saying,
Yeah,
no one
that's
even drove
going
over
on.
it. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's the formula. But
Yeah.
if you were to go back and look at it physically, it could be that, okay, the formula didn't really apply here. It's dropped down to a 50, but this is really a 70.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So then it kind of recalculates, the more data you put in it, the better you are as far as that goes. And then when you redo a road completely from reconstruction, it starts at 100. It lasts there for like 2 months and then already starts declining. That's where we're at. So then we came up and we said, hey, we're gonna do this 9-year integrated program goals for SAFE. And the overall arching was, we don't want to do it in 20 years, we want to do it in less. So 27.9 miles of sidewalk, 1 mile of paths and trails, 4 miles of bike lanes, pave 19.5 miles of roadway, construct or repair 899 ADA ramps, and then 78% of the 25-year program completed. 82% of the implementation of the city's ADA transition plan, which is our governing document. right? If someone were to come into the city and say, hey, you have a problem, where's your transition plan? We'd be like, oh, here it is, and we're working on it. But that's what this is also aiding to, is to, actually moving those projects forward. And then complete the city's original 10-year SSMP project list. So that is the 9-year program. We're almost close. That 10-year project list will be done with Harvey. So Harvey's the last project. And that's the first comment. So here's where we stand right now. And we didn't actually have too many things that changed in 2023. We didn't actually do a construction project in 2020. We were doing a lot of design, and we were slightly delayed because we didn't go out for the second bond. The projects were put on hold.
So 43rd and Howe and all that wasn't 2023, that was 22?
They were counted in 22, but we finished like the final little bits and like the punch list type of thing in 23.
Okay.
So, but the installation of the sidewalks and the roadway were pretty much done in 22. So I look back at it, I looked at the calculation, I was like, oh, we counted that in 22. But you're right, we did finish and sign them off in 23. So it's a little weird. I've got a better spreadsheet now that I've put together that'll be easier moving forward.
So just to make the comment, I mean, the number of sidewalk miles is less, but that's in part because we've gone the path route.
Yes,
instead
correct.
of the sidewalk route on.
We didn't anticipate, right, that we would be building so many paths, but Linwood, 43rd, and now King Road are actually all paths. So that's over, 234%. So correct. We will have to do a little of, hey, we've actually completed this work when we're done, or however far we take this, right? The 9-year program only works if we go out for another 3rd year, for the 3rd bond. If it doesn't, then we've got to rechange what the schools. Any other questions?
Are the accessible ramps paid for entirely through the bond, or do we can apply for grants?
We absolutely apply for grants, and that's one we did this last year, right? So the ADA ramp, we got $145,000 from Clackamas County, and we installed, I think, 10 ramps of that in another sidewalk section by Flood Works.
I'm talking about ramps. When you say 899, those are in the priority corridors? That's not citywide, that's where there are priority corridors? There's 899 ramps?
That's new, or it's a combination of new and reconstruct.
Okay.
So it's just saying the program says, hey, we had a goal of 900. There's definitely more. If you were to put them on every street and every, we would have considerably more.
Right. Okay, well, I just was trying to understand, like in your report, I think there's a thing that says 30% of surveyed ramps or something. I was just trying to make sure I understood that where we were comparing apples to apples in terms of ramps. So when you talk about ramps in your staff report, you're talking about those same 899 identified ramps.
Are you referring to how it was saying 30% of the ramp, only 30% are up to 80 or 88 compliant?
Right.
To compliant. So that was at the time of the original, I'm sorry, I know what you're talking about. That was at the original transition plan. Only 30% actually met the requirements. So this is updating or doing new almost 900 ramps for this program. It's in addition to those 30%.
Is there a due date for ramps, or is it just, you gotta plan?
At the moment, we don't have a due date, but we do have to have a transition plan. So we check that box. So that is actually really positive. There's a lot of cities that still don't. A lot of the bigger ones, but not the smaller ones, our size. So we're actually doing really well on that aspect. I do have a new software program that I've hired. It's called Deep Walk. And last summer, our intern went through and walked all of our streets, about 60 miles, and captured all of our sidewalks and all of our ADA ramps. And this program is supposed to be, it's supposed to be integrated into our GIS system, and then we'll be able to see, hey, where are we for sidewalks and ADA ramps? And this will be all new since it's up to date as of last summer. So I'm hoping to do a new transition plan with that data. Haven't quite received everything yet. It's supposed to be wrapped up by June 30th. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get my hands on that. And then this next fiscal year, kind of look at how can I use that to create a new, hey, here's where we're going, here's where it's happening. Now we're not at 30%, we're at, let's say,
So there's no hard compliance date? It's just you have to have a transition
you
plan?
have to have a transition.
Well, and when you work on a road, you have to fix
You
the ramp.
have to fix the ramps. If you go down, this is the other reason why we don't go down to soil or doing a grinded inlay. A grinded inlay doesn't trigger
Trigger.
the ramps to be done. So that is the other piece. Good or bad, but not every street in Milwaukee at this point is gonna get sidewalks or ADA ramps. Maybe someday, but not within this 9-year program.
To Councilor Massey's question, which I was going to ask the similar thing, I seem to recall when we had testimony on this several years ago, that one of the faults of the ADA ramp program that was the federal was that it didn't have a deadline. It just said you need to have a plan about it. And a lot of cities were saying, this is too expensive. We're going to get a plan, but we're not going to build these in a long time because we just don't have the money. Is that, and then we wanted to be more aggressive, as I recall, like, no, we're going to get ours done quicker than that. We're not going to wait around. Is that true, or am I misremembering how that went?
I think it depends on the city, right? Like ODOT is under scrutiny because they didn't do ADA ramps, and now they're kind of required to, like, by a lawsuit. So we haven't had any lawsuits, so that's why we don't have a date or any deadline on that. So at this point, yeah, we are doing better than some places because we have a plan and we're implementing that plan.
But the ADA requirement for these ramps at the federal level did not have, as I recall, you must have this done by 2035 or
Right.
2040
It's
or whatever.
not-
Didn't have a deadline.
No, but I also think there's a reason for that because they keep changing the rules on us. So, I mean, we have ramps that are not in compliance this year,
Oh, okay.
right? So they sit there and tell everybody they gotta be compliant. You better give them some money.
Yeah, right. I
In
remember
order
being
to
there.
install that.
How often does that happen where they change the compliance guidelines?
I mean, it's not, I mean, yes, there's stuff that's probably 10, 15, 10 years old that's not in compliance. So they've changed crosswalks, they're getting a little better. ProRag is kind of nailing down more about, hey, you must do this, not oh, you should try to do this. So it's getting closer, but
Still a ways of.
there's still things changing. So that's why you have a transition plan. So then you can place it in there. Because it's almost like I'm only required to update it if I'm repaving the road and I'm coming through and I'm making. So King Road is one of those, right? We actually repaved King Road. We didn't touch the ramps. This is why King Road is getting done. So we're kind of at fault at the moment. So, but it's in the works, it's under design, and it will be in compliance. All right, so here's Washington Street area improvements. It's under construction. They're moving pretty quickly. It's exciting. Stormwater is going in right now. It's the deeper of the utilities. And, but they're gonna start on 27th, start doing some, safe work. Putting in sidewalk and, updating sidewalk. We have a lot of non-compliant sidewalk on 27th. A couple ramps here and there.
27th, is that where the school is?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's mostly getting done on one side. So we're kind of, the side, that's east side.
The side of the school.
The school, the side of the school is getting completely redone. The other side is not. So we chose to do one side completely to kind of make it all the way around because then it curves down Washington and keeps on going as we're going to fill in all the gaps.
All the way to Lake?
Yes,
Okay.
the lake also gets its, RFP.
Oh,
You don't want to drive through there for the next few months. It is a nightmare.
Thank you. Please avoid it. Highly recommend it. But they are moving pretty quickly, so I'm excited about that. They're in full construction mode. It's great. Mayor, you asked for some funding on there, so I included that. Do you have any additional question about that?
I just wanted to understand, sort of what percentage of projects were funded out of SAFE versus out of utilities.
These are really integrated projects. So we are doing water, we're doing sewer, and we're doing storm along with SSMP and SAFE. So they are fully integrated, and you'll see that on the next couple projects. Any other questions for Washington?
I have one question. When we're in there, I'm looking at this picture and I see the telephone line, or I don't know if I see the telephone lines anymore, anyway, power lines. Do we ever consider the underground cabling, or at the time of any of this?
If we want.
You understand my question? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know
We
if,
don't know
we'd
at
always
this point.
been told that, you can't, it's so expensive to put wires underground. But if you're involved in a project or it's a new development, then of course you can, and it's a lot cheaper. And I just didn't know when we were tearing up the road and doing all that, if there's any opportunity to underground wires.
Typically, they'll be in the sidewalk section. This project, we're not doing full sidewalk. It's gaps, it's filling in spots. It's not necessarily new construction.
Yeah, okay.
So it makes
So it's not
it more-
happening, okay.
It's not happening.
Got it.
And for the most part, I don't consider it on any
On
of
most of the projects?
most of the projects we're doing.
Okay.
We're seeing it in bigger developments to underground in those areas because our code will allow us to have them pay for it.
Right, yeah.
But I don't have a budget item for undergrounding electricity at this time.
And I've heard that electricity has to be deeper or something, so it's more expensive. Is that right? Deeper in the ground, like further below.
Versus like the
Versus
Comcast
like
cable or
the-
something, or
yeah,
whatever,
versus
something else.
the water line or the wastewater line or whatever.
Not deeper than wastewater, I'd say typically,
Okay.
but that's in the middle of the road. Yes, you need it, I mean, they don't want the lines to freeze and things like that. So you're, 3 to 5 feet deep typically.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong, but I love the aesthetic of buried utilities, but there's a downside to this about repair and maintenance and upgrades. Because like when Quantum Fiber came through and strung all that fiber cable, last summer, I'm not sure that would have happened if they had to dig. Because, they just kind of came through and strung it.
Strung it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought, the aesthetic is much, obviously more pleasing, and it makes me wonder when people say, oh, it's so expensive. I wonder how Europe has done this. Because you go to European cities, you don't see telephone lines, you don't see them. But with climate change and with more, I've always read that when they're above ground, you got more, squirrels, you got whatever,
Safety and aesthetics.
Weather, trees,
Staying.
right? They're-
Trees falling, and we're gonna have with the, more climate change, more storms, more this, that, ice, whatever, that it's, we're gonna have more problems, not just up Milwaukie, but
Find me
general.
money and I'll put them underground.
Yeah, I know, if we could find money, yeah,
Get your wallet up.
yeah.
Yeah, plenty.
Okay, Arnold North.
Ardenwell North is another project we have coming up. This one is slated for construction for next summer. I believe this is split into, now I'm doubting myself, that might be for,
No, actually, I'm hoping to start it as soon as we get it off the bid.
and it's just a one-year project, construction project.
Yeah.
Anywho,
You're saying it's going this year? Oh,
We have to, actually.
because it's got ARPA
It's
money.
got ARPA money, so it got slightly delayed due to working on the 29th Avenue project, Greenway stuff. So now though, we need to move this forward. So this is kind of engineering's kind of top priority besides Washington, because it's under construction. But this project needs to go out next, as we don't want to lose those funds because there's quite a bit of money there for water and wastewater all be paid by ARPA.
In terms of pavement, the purple lines, I think, tell the best story here. That's where we're doing a pavement overlay. This one is also very integrated, like Washington. So we have some water main replacements we're doing, as well as sanitary sewer replacement. And then we also have a small segment of sidewalk replacement on the east end of Roswell there. SSMP funds are almost 600,000, SAVE funds 765,000. And we have a bunch of other funds in there for utilities.
So this project, this really wasn't identified as a priority in SAFE. It became a priority because of the utility needs in the
It
area.
is safe. Remember, it is a conglomerate of projects that
Uh-huh.
are put in there. So
Okay.
it is still a part of the safe plan.
I guess, I didn't remember, I looked at the priority corridors map and I didn't think it was part of that. I could be wrong, but I just wondered if it was the utility needs that moved it up, bumped it up higher as a priority, or?
No, my understanding is it's, because we set it up the integrated program, and so we have Ardenwald North and we have an Ardenwald South, right? And so it is pulling those together and we called it Ardenwald North. And then we looked at, oh, there's some utilities here we need. All right, so our upcoming projects, we got King Road, Monroe Street Greenway, Harvey, Stanley, and our next Brennan Inlay.
Speaking of Stanley, oh, well, you're gonna come to that.
Let's go into it.
Okay.
Let's wait for the slide. All right, so King Road is moving. Just received 60% design submittal. I haven't opened it yet, but I got it today. The one thing that we did add from previous budget cycle to this budget cycle is stormwater. We've done a bunch of testing out there and our dry wells are failing. And they just don't actually take water. It might not even be the right application for a dry well, to be honest. So we added some stormwater funds to that, and that's why that project dollar amount went up. It is reflected in the new budget cycle. I haven't seen the latest, it's in the 60% design submittal, what they came up with, but I'm excited because it sounds like they could have either installed many dry wells along the well, or we're gonna do a new kind of treatment system. So it sounds like it's gonna be hopefully within our budget, which is exciting. All right, here's Harvey.
All right, so this is the Harvey Street improvements as it's blocked by our Zoom call stuff. Anyway, Harvey Street improvements, another nice map here that I think really tells the story best. The purple lines are new paving. We also have some, again, this is a very integrated project, so we have some water system improvements, sewer main improvements, and drainage improvements as well. We're currently at, we just reviewed the 60% design and we'll be working towards the 90% design just over the next few weeks. Funding here, again, it's a whole conglomerate of funds, but for SSMP and SAFE, we're at 958,000 and 890,000 respectively for those two.
We are going to be putting sidewalk on one side of the street and parking on one side of the street.
And then does the street have bike lanes or no?
No, it is a shared road.
Okay.
It is a shared space. It will be getting narrowed to hopefully help with speed.
So it'll get some of the Greenway treatment that we're going to talk about next?
Yeah, we're definitely looking at some of the Greenway treatments. It's a little bit different classification. It's a neighborhood route instead of a local road. So it's set up just slightly different. So, I don't think it makes sense to put a lot of the green markings down for it because there's going to be maintenance to maintain because you've got so much more traffic on this. So, but we are considering signage and things like that. And who knows, we might put some green markings. I brought it up at the 60% saying, hey, what are we doing? This is a Greenway. So. Okay, let's talk about Stanley now. Go ahead, you can start it.
Sure. So this is it's very early in the design. A project to add some sidewalk, repave Stanley from King to Johnson Creek. So it's kind of the northern stretch of Stanley. We're getting some funding through Clackamas County through their urban renewal area. And then we're also looking at getting a grant from Safe Routes to School, $3 million for each.
And what's the timeline on that?
Yeah.
Application's gone in for that.
Yeah.
So we submitted the first application. There's a second part to the application that's due July 31st. We're working on that application. We won't know if we get this grant until late fall this late fall. So that makes me nervous because I'm working on an IGA with the county right now for their portion. They have the money. There's no holdup on their portion. So they're hoping that we move forward July 1 to get a designer on board to actually start the design process because we don't have anything yet. We just have a report that says, hey, we should do some work on Stanley. And I kind of need more reassurance from you guys. If we don't get the Safe Routes to School, we have to still cover that cost. And if we don't want to cover that cost, then we shouldn't be signing an IGA with the county. But it means that all goes away.
What do you mean all goes away? What is
The
that?
3 million goes away. If we still go, if we turn around and get the Safe Routes to School, I can't do all the work. I don't have enough money. Or we're backfilling the counties.
So this is the state has to come through, is that right?
Safe Routes to School.
It's an
ODOT grant.
It's an ODOT grant. It's out, completely out.
I mean,
But he meant
it's state. Yeah.
Yeah, it's state money. So we would receive a check. It was great. It's not federal dollars. I love state money. It's so much easier to administer.
So have we told the county that we're not going to sign the IGA until we get the save money or?
Then they may walk.
Okay.
You think they would really walk?
They want to start July, so they need to spend the money. They have a timeline
Okay.
to spend this money. It's revitalization dollars. Stanley is not fully within the border, so yeah, they could do, I guess, their portions, but it would be completely gaps. We would be leaving gaps that wouldn't be done if we didn't get the money.
Do they need to spend it or obligate it?
I was told spend it in 3 years. So the 3-year program would be, so I need time to design it, probably about 18 months, and then 18 months to construct.
So what's the total that we would be, if we don't get the Safe Routes grant? How much is that? You said 3 million, that's just 3 million. right, that we'd have
It's a
to
little
fill.
bit on the, I would say I've estimated well, as far as that goes, so it wouldn't be any more than 3 million. At the moment, we have $500,000 in the budget for design, so I'm not counting on the Safe Routes to School for design piece. And then so really about 2.5 million. So it means deferring a project if we don't get the Safe Routes to School. Or going out for more debt, right? Like we could wrap that into another debt if we were. So something to think about as far as that goes.
You know, that's not a lot of time. You say July?
Yeah, it's not a lot of time at all.
Yeah.
This project hinders on the grants.
It hinders on 2 grants, right? I'm trying, this wasn't a project that
Yeah, right,
originally, it's in the program, but it wasn't in the next biennium. But I added it at this point.
What's a shot?
So I think it's one of those things though, if we do get all this money, then it's a complete project, right? And it moves forward. The county money's for sure. It's just the Safe Routes to School money we're not sure on. But it would get Stanley done completed.
Is the fact that we're doing the second phase mean we made some cut on the first phase on Safe Routes to School?
The invitation to apply for the Phase 2 grant, was that conditional? Like, did
No,
they?
wasn't conditional. They,
Everybody got to do it.
our application was, they said, hey, we encourage you to fill out the second part of the application. So we're not at the top, but we're also not at the bottom. Right now is where we stand. The fact that we did, Llewellyn did a study, right? They ran that study, and now we're trying to implement that study. Also, I think looks really good. That you're taking it and you're moving that program forward, and you're actually putting those dollars to good use.
Jen, I know during the budget process, we talked about getting on a quarterly supplemental schedule. So we provide quarterly budget reports to you and really aligning any supplemental budget decisions with that. Would it be, our next budget committee meeting will be in August. So in August, we won't know anything about the Safe Routes grant at that point? Okay.
I think it's a little, they
So
did
that's
it July
probably-
31st. Applicate, the second part of the application's due. Or it's really late fall.
Okay. So it'd probably be your final budget committee meeting of the year is when you'd be probably receiving an update on this and considering any budget adjustments to the CIP at that point.
But we can't wait till then.
I mean, I think
The county,
correct, this is in the CIP budget currently with the assumptions that we will get that Safe Routes to School grant and receive the county URA money. And so I think if you adopt that CIP budget, which I think you've approved that you will do, we're assuming that, yes, this is a project you want to move forward with and predicated on getting those funds. I think then the question Jen's asking is if that weren't to come through, we would have that supplemental budget conversation where we're either covering that $3 million portion that we didn't get from Safe Routes from another fund, which might mean postponing another CIP project. But at that time, you could have that conversation, or saying we're postponing this. But at that point, we have to return the county. We basically would say we
I
can't.
haven't received any money from the county yet, but I need to know if I should keep working on that IGA really. Because I've got plenty of stuff on my plate.
That's my question though. You said they had to spend the money by July 1st, but we won't know about the Safe Routes grant till August?
They need to start the process. They have 3 years they need to spend the money. So we've got, they've got time as far as that goes, but they want an IGA in place before July 1. So that's what we've been working on. So do we want to continue moving forward on that IGA?
I think we do. I mean, all the work that went into Safe Routes, I don't see how we can not. I just hope we don't have to find $2.5 million.
Do you know, Jen, what project might be deferred if that were the case? I'm putting you on the spot here. It's okay to say.
Probably King is the best, is the one that has the most safe fund, like has 4 million safe dollars. King's, or maybe we break up King and do half of King and then use the other, so there's options on King Road to do. That could make sense.
Of the projects that you have queued up within that 3-year period to take on this project, how many would we know? I'm thinking about the contingency on those projects and how much of that contingency would be freed up, the project would be done, and then there might be some cost savings from
Potentially.
contingency.
Yeah, we have a lot, right? So besides King Road, Washington, Washington should be, completed no later than this time next year. I'm hoping it'll be actually done in fall, but we'll see. We make it.
Okay.
You have Ardenwald North. You have Harvey.
So I would be in favor of moving forward and probably talking with the county a bit about, how open they are to a provisional, IGA, or at least making sure that they understand that, that we're really hoping that the Safe Routes grant comes through. But I guess, what I'm saying is within the 3 years that we have to plan and to do this project, to use out the county funding, we'll have other projects that we'll be finishing up. And then the cost savings that we can pull from contingency from those projects, we might be able to cobble together to cover most of that gap. If there's a gap,
The other one would be, we would probably, I mean, not moving Loga's 40th and 42nd forward too. That would be another option. I don't have enough funds at the moment to construct it, but I would have design dollars. So like those, design dollars could be moved potentially.
I mean, I think, I'm in alignment with you. I think we would be able to have some coverage on that. I would rather do that than have to cancel or shortfall any projects, because King is a big one. And there's those neighborhoods there. I mean, I live there, so there's no sidewalks in those neighborhoods. It's very difficult to even do anything on King. It's such a busy road. So I would hate to have to take or shortfall any project, but I think what Councilor Stavanger brought up, I think we should, you're right, there should be.
I mean,
There-
just, yeah, hopefully there will be contingency, but I mean, that, there's no guarantee, right?
Right,
Why
I mean,
it's
that's why it's
contingency.
but I mean, the other thing is, this is not, we're not just blindly seeking out a safe routes for school grant. This is a result. I mean, I realize this is not a process that the city initiated, but the process has been multiple years in the making, and safe routes has been a part of that conversation.
Yeah.
So the fact that, that they know the success around the earlier steps of the process so far, I think, that reflects well on an application. And for the city to then come in and say, we are in favor of this project, and here's what the collaboration and the leveraging of funds look like between the city and the county, I think that's really appealing in the application.
Yeah, I do too.
Jennifer, I mean, I thought I heard you say that there was some concern on your part if we look like we're hedging our bets with the county, they may pull. Is that what I heard you say?
If we sign an IGA, they're fine as far as moving forward. That's all they want. They want an IGA. They want to start, their goal is July 1 to go out for a design consultant to start the design process, right?
Well, I guess when I heard Councilor Stavanger were talking about a provisional, I thought that was like, here's a provisional and it's only good if we get the state money.
Well, we have the design funds, and you said that some portions of Stanley would be complete, and I don't have a map that shows me which segments of the sidewalks, but
Really,
if it's as
The
patchwork
boundaries.
as the city-county boundary, then, it's probably pretty bad.
It's
I just don't
not-
want to give the county a reason to back out early.
Okay,
No,
well,
I
then
don't,
let's not say that.
they're really excited, honestly.
Okay.
So they're really excited. They do want this IGA. So that's been my goal, is to work with him to get that IGA, and we would move forward.
Okay.
July 1, I already have design funds set in the budget. I put in $500,000 to get us started. So, okay, I'm gonna move forward with an IGA. You'll be seeing that come to you probably, hopefully in June. He has gotten me the next copy.
Thank you for
Is
the
there-
partnership with the neighborhood office.
Great.
As someone who hosted some of those meetings at my house.
Yeah. They're very passionate.
Yes, they are.
It's exciting. All right, and then we've got our Monroe Greenway. We are about, so from 37th to Linwood, they should be at about a 30% in August. So that one's moving, sort of. The biggest one on Central Monroe Greenway is we're prepping to put in the water line. So our water line is really old, and so we're putting in a new water line before they pave and redo the signal. That has to happen this summer. So right now we've submitted for ODOT right-of-way permits, and that's a really long process. We should be proud. We do it much faster here.
I'm sorry, you're saying water line across 224?
Yeah.
Oh,
So we need to get that done before October 30th, basically. So it's not, we decided to not put it in their project because it's federalized dollars. So our price would go up significantly by doing that. So we're gonna get it in sooner than that to save us money. So that's my main work that I'm doing in Central. I have a contract that we need to start getting survey done for that Central piece. We have assigned IGA for the 1.5 million, which is exciting. That's construction dollars, so we still need to do design. So we're, it's just slow right now because I don't have someone managing that project.
I just want to make sure you knew that the YMCA there, the nursery school, is apparently being bought and refurbished. So there will be new people coming in using that, so.
We'll have a write-in, write-out. Originally, ODOT wanted, I'm hoping that's what stays. I'll have to verify that, but that's what we've been petitioning, write-in, write-out. They were gonna close the write-in. We went, wait a minute, that's not gonna work. Whoever was there. So, and that's all the double check, but write-in, write-out should still be happening. So you're gonna get, this is in your packet tonight, the 2024 SSMP project. We're doing 2 miles this time, so doubling what we did in the last project. We got a fantastic. It was under engineer's estimate by quite a bit, actually. So this is just exciting. People want to work for Milwaukie, and it gives me a little bit of confidence in our, the cost estimate that we are doing. We're putting in the contingency we need, so we're not, so we have the actual funds to do the work. And our slurry seal is 6.6 miles. I do not have at this point when those are both projects are happening, but we'll be getting schedules here shortly. But it is super exciting. Okay, questions. I did have a question up there. Can you move the thing again? I forget exactly what I think there's one other topic I wanted to just make sure we're chatting about. What is your thoughts on this program and where is it going to go next? The 9-year program was based off of a third tranche of debt. If we don't do that, then that 9-year program is done, right? We're cutting it short. So I kind of was wondering what the feeling is. What if we also don't go out for another tranche, then we're either fully on going out for grants to move project forwards, or we're just in a state of paying for our debt instead of moving more projects forward.
And can I ask a quick question on the really helpful project list that you included with the staff report? You've got some things highlighted in yellow. What does yellow mean on that list? There's particularly a lot in sort of the out years. Looks like this. Just didn't know yellow had like a.
I did have a meeting.
It's okay if you don't.
I can see it.
I'll bring it over to you. Stay where you are.
I think those are some of our caution ones outside of like city limits. They have issues with
Okay.
these projects. They're the ones that, or maybe we shouldn't be doing because there's another project that picks them up. But really the third tranche planning was definitely a lot of these white ones.
The white ones. Okay. Thank you.
So, I mean, when we talked at the budget hearing on Saturday, we talked about having a more robust conversation around what money costs us. What is the cost of doing a tranche and the debt service and all of that versus, not doing a tranche, slowing down. And it's, I think it's a question I can see both sides of, So, I'd like us to have a little more of an educated conversation about that with some, financial expertise brought to the table about what that costs us. Yeah.
Great, and I have plenty to do in these next 2 years, but we can't wait 2 years and not have these conversations. So I just wanted you to start thinking about it so we can start having that conversation about, hey, otherwise we're delaying again and we can't keep moving forward. So I need to also keep staff busy, things like that. We can do more in-house design. It's just, they will go slower, which is fine. That's not a horrible thing. It also means I'll probably break the projects down to a little better size, right? If we're gonna go that route. And then, so we can construct them, because some of these are $5 million. Well, we might not have $5 million if we don't go out for that, right? But we might have, $500,000. Okay, so now we can design that smaller project and put it out. Which is fine. It's just how do we want to plan, and do I need to, after 2 years, change kind of what the engineering department looks like?
Well, I mean, you had told us, and I don't know, at the beginning of the year, maybe, that we needed to have this, we needed to decide in a year, or somebody had told us, like, by the end of this year, early next year, we need to be ready to make a decision. And I think that's,
Or at least have a plan. I would say a plan in place, right? Because two things. One, I think there's been a little bit of talk of, hey, maybe we do want to go out for that third tranche, but maybe we want different projects. And if that's the case, we need to do public outreach on what those projects looks like. This 9-year program we've done all that outreach, right? Like, that has been done for that 9-year plan. So if we change that plan, we need to go back out to the public, and we need to do engagement, and we need to decide what are those projects that should be done. And there might be something to say about that after we get through the TSP, right? The TSP might have some other things that pop up that, hey, we haven't really touched our greenways. Maybe we need to, grab that a little more. However, we are doing Monroe and possibly Stanley.
Well, I would offer this up, and I don't know if this is a reasonable approach, but I agree that, we need to, address this in the coming year. But, the decision is not, I don't think, binary, we do it or we don't do it. I think the decision might be, well, we want to do it, but we have to wait toward when interest rates are better.
Sure.
And so we evaluate it a year later. But it's just not as simple as interest rates, because, if you just delay it, then your construction costs go up. And so there's a trade-off there about interest rate versus inflation of material and services and everything like that. So, but I'm just saying, I don't think that the decision has to be go, no go, and then we're done.
Sure. But we need a plan.
Yeah.
We need a plan. We need how to move forward,
Yeah.
especially for the next budget cycle, not this one, we set for this next one, but what is happening in the next budget cycle? Because I can't just, how am I going to build that next budget cycle if I don't have a plan, or at least understand where we want to go?
I do appreciate what you said when you said maybe we smaller, right? Because maybe instead of biting off like bigger things that are 10-year plans, maybe a steady flow of projects being done, so it's a consistent, keeping it more consistent of things getting done on those smaller things, so we don't have to A, get too much debt, right? Take on too much more debt, and B, maybe even though it might be slower, keeping more stuff in-house could help on certain, especially budget constraints and things like that. But I don't think not doing it is even an option. Just because when you look at it, what we're providing here, these are basic core services that cities provide. Like when you just get down to, when you cut through all the extra things that cities do, this is like a basic thing, as infrastructure. So I don't think not doing it is an option. But I think that, the way we do it, like Councilor Massey said, is going to have to be.
Yeah.
It'll
I
be
think
interesting.
that comment really helps me. So for the next presentation I put together to talk about this, I can at least have some options, right? Like, hey, okay, so not an option is an option, but like, what is the other options, right?
Right, yeah.
And here's kind of a small version, here's a medium-sized version, here's like, okay, we're going out for the full tranche. And moving forward, right? I love that.
I appreciate the comment about having the financials and knowing kind of what our tipping point is. And that's why I brought up the fact in the budget session about our bond rating, because if we have a really good bond rating right now, but if we see that slipping, then that's going to have an impact on the interest that we can get and revenue that we would be able to take out in a loan. But there are a couple of other unknown pieces that I think we need before we have that next conversation. One is the TSP and identifying the priorities that are either reprioritized, weren't done in the last TSP, but, have come to the forefront in the discussions, or finding new things that are emerging in this current iteration. And then the other thing that I think is kind of unknown is what's going to happen in the legislature in 2025. So, we get a lot of revenue from the gas tax. What's going to be happening with the gas tax? There's funding that's available, at a state level, at a national level. Are we set up to receive some of that? What is the, just kind of what does the forecast regionally look like? And I think there are a lot of moving parts with that. So I'd rather have kind of those three pieces together and then have a really good discussion about what feels comfortable to move forward with.
Right, and the right-of-way fees.
Yeah.
Our increase in right-of-way fees, that's really what they're intended for too, is the infrastructure and these kind of projects, right? So that's another thing to
So I think this is great, and this is a great, like, you planted the seed at the exact right time. A few milestones to point to going forward, because we do need to bring you all those financial pieces. This is connected to our broader revenue strategy conversation that you've heard me drone on and on about the last 2 Saturdays. And it's connected to your goals conversation as you kind of at the end of this year start thinking about the goals you want to set for the next 2 years. So I think the milestones I'd look to is we've got a retreat in August, at which I think we can begin some of the conversations about the revenue piece, which is, yes, general fund revenue, but also the critical pieces like this. Then we've talked about, we're moving this annual report up. So you're going to hear from Jen about SAFE again sooner, not super soon, maybe the end of this year, when she could bring we can bring more of those scenarios of if we took the full tranche, if we took part of a tranche, if we didn't take another tranche of debt. And then your winter retreat, I think, is going to be a really critical moment for making some decisions about goals and about revenue strategies. So it's not going to happen overnight. This is going to be a long conversation, but I just wanted to share there's a roadmap. There's a milestone at the end of the summer. There's conversations we'll have during the fall. There's the ongoing work with the TSP. And then I think there's really some decision points we're going to be looking at late 24, early 25 that gives Jen the clarity she needs and you all, a real clear path of where we're going forward.
So nimble, it's almost like a bike.
I love it. Yes.
There's one other grant I'm working on, and it's for Harrison to 42nd to connect to our King project. It's considered a complete crash corridor, and so
What's that mean?
that's where we have most of our crashes within the city.
Okay.
So we're looking at going after a little bit larger grant. First would be the study of it. It would set us up to potentially get federal dollars to actually build it. So lots of things.
So Harrison from
99.
224, from 99.
Yeah, technically 99. I may shorten it at some point, but it would be for the study looking at 99 all the way to 42nd, and then 42nd to King Road. So we can potentially get our roundabout, all those. So-
Where's the roundabout? What about the roundabout?
Oh, I don't know about the roundabout. 42nd and Harrison, a roundabout there is what we're, just had a study done, completed.
Okay.
Potentially, instead of a signal,
Yeah.
because signals are expensive to maintain.
Yeah.
And we don't do that here. Maintain them. We have the county maintain them, but it's, yeah, they're all outdated right now. I'm working on that too.
I have to say, after coming back from driving around Portugal, roundabouts are awesome. I love roundabouts. I think we need some.
Yeah.
But I know that not everyone shares.
I saw a ton of them in Bend recently too, when I was in Bend. I don't know, maybe it's the new area.
Camas has.
But what was funny is you'd see also the tire tracks going over all of the roundabout. And like, come on,
The
people.
one in Washougal, I
They're
noticed
actually meant to
David.
be mountable.
Yeah, but not design, but not
They're designed,
expected.
they're designed, yeah,
You're sup-
yeah. They're designed especially for trucks. So truck traffic,
Oh.
actually designed for trucks to
Should
mount
do
them.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
It's
okay.
actually a design feature.
The smaller scale ones, the big ones that have like planters and
Yeah,
statues.
these were smaller. Yeah, they were designed for that.
It had a mountable curb. It was
Yeah,
meant to be mountable.
Yeah.
Because the truck can't take the,
Yeah, those turns, so they allow them to go up and over. Some even design them to go right through them if they need to, but anyways, we don't need quite that feature, but yes, it would be mountable as well here.
I will say I drove,
Can you do launching?
I was driving Highway 14 in Washougal this last weekend where they have several roundabouts too. One of which has a beautiful Washougal sign. The problem is the OUG was missing. I think someone went. But I am a big fan of roundabouts, having lived in the UK. They are wonderful. I will caution against the Magic Roundabout, which is in Swindon, England, and is like 5 mini roundabouts on one major roundabout. It is the most terrifying.
That's big for that, so it's all.
so, but when you do it, I thought we couldn't put roundabouts in because they take more space and you'd have to cut into all the corners. Is that true? So,
Difficult part about them.
so like on 42nd and Harrison, if that's what you're talking about.
Very little right of way is needed, and I think I could do it without it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was surprising when you said 42nd Harrison.
Me too. That's like,
It's 3 lanes across every leg, and you're only pulling one in. So when you think about it, like, yeah, there's more space there than you think.
I see.
People go through the stop sign anyways.
I am going to ask if we can move to the next agenda item, just because we do have some community members here who I'm sure love talking about roundabouts, but we should talk about greenways as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
And it's Josh's first city council presentation. Welcome, Josh.
Hello, council members.
It'll be really nice, you guys.
Yes, first time new associate engineer here at the city. I'm very excited to be here. And today I'll be talking to you about 29th Street Greenway Improvements Project.
Hold on 1 second, Scott's gonna pull it up.
Awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
We can stay here for now. It's all good. In response to public concern regarding bicyclist and pedestrian safety within the intersections of the Greenway on 29th Street, much of staff's analysis has been focused on figuring out what kind of infrastructure we want to provide within these intersections. First thing I would like to know is that this project will have to be broken out into 3 different phases because of future projects happening within the scope of this project. So starting with phase 1, this is what we can install right now, which would be signage. We are proposing to install new bike and pedestrian warning signs based off of the standard MUTCD. The purpose and intention of this is to warn traffic crossing the Greenway here that there are pedestrians and bicyclists going through here and that this is a greenway. It's well traveled by these pedestrians and bicyclists. And we decided to place them on the eastern side, so for traffic headed north across the Greenway, or actually west across the Greenway. Because these intersections, most of them are at dead ends, not a lot of traffic is headed eastward. So it didn't seem to warrant the need to install signs on the other side of the street as well.
You have to go through it to get
About
to the, what?
Oh, is it okay to ask a question?
Yeah.
When I went to walk through some of that space, there were concerns about traffic really like going both ways. And so I'm kind of wondering, with this concept, what you've heard from community members, if they feel like this is a good start, or they feel like there are actually folks who live in the neighborhood who are exceeding speeds as well.
Yeah, we got some good community feedback regarding the signs. Neighbors seem to somewhat agree with there being placement only on one side since they are dead ends, and they understood that there wasn't a lot of traffic headed eastward across the Greenway. They only mentioned that maybe delivery trucks would be unaware of this because they don't live in here. Our reasoning for that was that the way to get into that dead end street is to cross this Greenway. So either you're on the Greenway and you're aware of that it's a Greenway, or that you're crossing the Greenway and you're going to see this MUTCD warning sign. And so you're going to be aware of it on the way back that you're going to be crossing a Greenway.
Okay. I guess I'm also thinking about setting the precedent for these types of improvements across other greenways. And
Correct.
Want to
I
make
would.
sure that
If it
this
was
is
a through
something.
street, then I
Yeah.
would put it on both directions.
Okay.
Correct. Now, if we need it, we could still put it in, right? Like, that could be considered. I think we just felt like it was maybe a little overkill. But
helpful.
if
Thank you.
we would like to relook, I mean, once we install all of this, I'd like to, see
Yeah.
how it's functioning, what's
Sure.
working, what's not working.
Thank you.
Yep. Now, this summer, we have a slurry seal project happening on 29th Street that will be providing us a new pavement to work on. So once that is installed this summer, we can move into phase 2, which is installing green pavement markings for bike crossings across the intersections. So the purpose here is to direct pedestrians and bicyclists to a certain area within the intersection to provide them safe travel across the intersection, while also providing a visual for cross-traffic crossing the Greenway that there is a bike crossing here. You have a question?
And
No,
Okay. Go ahead.
is that also on the westbound side of,
On the east side of the street,
east side of the street?
we
Okay.
continue that. The street is narrow. We looked at possibly doing it on both sides and you're just doing basically a bunch of green. So LAR sign and markings technician recommended just doing one side. I said, well, if we're doing one side, I would do the east again, because that's where you've got people coming in here, and once you get across, you're at a dead end, so you have to go back the way you came.
And this isn't about the Greenway, but it's interesting to me that you're slurry sealing already, because didn't we just repave 29th like 4 years ago?
Want to keep it from cracking. Trying to keep those PSIs up. Exactly. So this is actually probably one of the best streets to actually slurry seal and keep that, so we don't have to come back to it for a while.
Have you found any confusion for newer bicyclists or younger bicyclists that only have that one side of the street where it's marked as a bike crossway? Do they end up going across to stay in that space and then have to
I
go
don't think
across the
we don't really
street again?
know. This isn't really something that's in a document that says, hey, this is how you should do
Yeah.
it, right? This is something new we're trying.
Okay. I'd be interested to hear,
Yeah.
from neighbors and, certainly as we all cycle on that space, what it feels, what the gravitational pull is.
Sure. The intention is to bring, hey, this is a greenway, it's to bring awareness to people approaching that, hey, you are in a space. It's a shared road, so you can be wherever you want to be. Or bikes or pedestrians, you're not required to be only in that space.
I'd like to note that our installments for the pavement markings for phase 2 will be at the intersections along 29th at Kelvin Street, Olson Street, Malcolm Street, and Boyd Street. We stop at Boyd Street because later on next year, we will be having Ardenwald North project happening. And the scope of that project does include 29th and Roswell. You can go to the next slide. So once we get to North Ardenwald, at that time, we will be doing our grind and inlay on the intersection of Roswell and 29th. And then once that is completed, we can install the final bike crossing at the intersection. And that is phase 3.
So it's gonna take time to complete it completely.
we had a few meetings with PSAC, NDA, Ardenwald, and Bike Milwaukie. Got a lot of great comments and responses in these meetings. Just wanted to note that we did receive the comment to include the MUTCD bike and pedestrian warning sign at the corners of the Greenway at 29th and Vanwater, as well as 29th and Balfour. We looked at that and decided this would be a good implementation to add to the scope of this project, and so that is what we did.
So you're talking about the same sign you showed at the beginning?
Correct, yeah, and if we go back to
A little bit
the,
more where it curves.
right, and we can see that on the first phase, that at the corners of the Greenway, we do install this sign as well, where we see fit.
Are we able to add the neighborhood green, because I mean, the best way to say it's a greenway is to put a sign that says it's Greenway.
Right.
Are we able to add that sign under the speed limit?
We were thinking about Greenway toppers, and there is, you're correct, a sign additional to speed sign that says Greenway on it. That is something that we could look into the future, maybe installing, but
I thought there was an issue adding it to this sign though. That you have a
This-
MUTCD issue. I mean,
this sign wouldn't, MUTCD doesn't support the Greenway topper on this specific sign. The Greenway topper we would be looking at would be on top of street signs or at the bottom of speed, right, at the bottom of speed
Oh,
signs.
those go on top too?
That actually goes on bottom.
Bottom,
of
right?
that
Would they
speed.
allow that on the bottom of those?
I don't think they do.
I don't think so.
That was the problem. That's what I wanted to do. I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
add that to this sign, and Ellie was not happy.
But we could potentially add it to the speed limit, sorry, the speed limit signs, right?
We don't have any speed
But we
limit.
don't have any on there existing right now.
Yeah.
Can we go back to your implemented in future? They talk a little bit about speed limit signs there.
So, one other item that people said, hey, let's provide a 20 miles per hour speed limit signage with the Greenway sign along 29th Avenue. Love the idea. I don't have a problem with it, except for everybody in the community is asking for 20 mile per hour within their neighborhood. So I have put this on the TSP. This is one of my items on the TSP is, hey, as the community, do we want to lower from 25 to 20 on all local roads? What that means is if we go that route, we would come back to you for an ordinance and we can easily do that. We don't have to go through any other state department or anything like that. But it means we have to sign every local street, which is not a problem. It's just some money. So that is great. I want to run it through the TSP because I do these one-offs. Everyone is going, wait a minute, I asked for that. Why am I not getting it? So it is an equity item at this point. Not sure.
Well, I'm a big fan of 20, and Portland did it several years ago, but I guess waiting for TSP and a new ordinance, we're probably talking a year. And I guess I hate to let another summer go by on 29. I mean, there is an answer to the people who say, I want it on my street, which is, this is a Greenway, right? And we
I
are
have several requests, Mayor. Several requests.
from other greenways.
Not just greenways.
But I mean, that is a basis for distinguishing them.
I think that's what the mayor's saying is if someone said, why did you grant it to 29th and not to another, we can say it's because it's a greenway. Then we should be prepared to also grant it to other requests that come from greenways.
Right.
So how about if we were to explore that to say like within the first 3 phases of this, let's look at, or maybe even within the first phase of this, how much would it take to put signs, like 20 mile an hour signs along this one and the other greenways so that we have an idea? Because I mean, I don't actually know how much
I'm gonna be,
money this would be.
Street signs are?
no, it's not. The cost isn't, I don't think, too bad as far as that goes. It is my capacity. I am down 2 staff members right now. We've got to move back to Ardenwald North and we could potentially lose funding. So to to add this scope at this moment is actually quite a bit at the moment. So that is my one concern. It doesn't seem like a lot, but we still have to, in order for me to sign the 20 miles per hour, I still have to go through a process. Because legally right now it's 25. So you're still gonna have to come back to you to say, hey, we wanna drop this 5 miles.
That's for Greenways, no, regardless.
Regardless,
Yeah.
it doesn't, yeah.
What's the anticipation for being fully staffed?
Unclear. I have interviews on Friday for 2 possible. If they don't work out, I don't have any more applicants after that.
So, I mean, are you saying the workload issue is 20 mile per hour speed signs on 29th, or the workload issue is addressing all the other?
For Jen to put, what I didn't understand until right now is that the speed limit on 29th is 25. So to put a 20 miles per hour sign, we're gonna have to change the speed limit there. We start that process, it triggers a lot of other things. I think if we could wave a magic wand and make this happen, we would. It's the fact that we have to go through processes via ordinance to lower speed limits and take these actions.
Same process.
And so I think what Jen is saying from an equity standpoint, doing it comprehensively as soon as we can, and after it's put into the TSP as a, policy.
Does the community want to do that in general? I don't know. That's why it's going through the TSP.
Then we can more comprehensively address the speed
If they
limit.
say no, then we're in and off, then it's just one-offs here and there. So we would say, hey, we have the ability to reduce it, and then we're moving forward. But I don't know that answer.
May I ask two quick follow-up questions? Are you open to a friendly amendment for the TSP item that just says for greenways, not necessarily along 29th? Or are you, because the piece that's listed here on the TSP,
I'm already proposing to drop it to 20 miles per hour for greenways in the TSP. Like that's,
oh, okay.
so I'm moving that forward.
What you're saying is, in addition to that, you want to specify for 29th? I'm just wondering what along 29th.
This was, I think, a specific comment we got from the public asking us to provide 20 miles per hour signs on 29.
Great.
And
That's wonderful.
So what Jen is saying is, yes, but we should do this process where it goes through the TSP, then we'll bring the ordinance to you to lower speed limits, and then we will.
That makes total sense, and that's what I was going to suggest. I just got tripped up by the fact that it says along 29th on the slide. So now I'm with you. My second question is there a mechanism where we can get you some more help by contracting with another city?
I don't know.
Rather than going through, a full hire, I mean, and absolutely we want people to be hired and love it here at Milwaukie, but a lot of small cities will contract with other small cities to share
I know a lot of
capacity.
them are also looking for people too.
So maybe we could
We do it with our building team.
I was gonna say, we heard this weekend that Happy Valley was
Loaning out their building inspector.
loaning out, building inspectors. Don't know if they're loaning out engineers or not.
We take the engineering capacity crisis seriously, and we are.
looking at her, being this close to her eyes, I do
You
too.
can feel the anxiety palpitating off of Jen. Yes.
It's hard. We've been short-staffed since I started this position. That was last September.
So I think we should get you some more capacity. I realize that you have interviews, but that's also taking a lot of time
Yep.
to recruit and interview and then onboard someone. But if we were able to get a contract with another city, it doesn't have to even be a small city, to bring some capacity in, and especially on some of these very tangible kind of finite projects.
Yeah.
We should do that.
Yeah.
I think we'll take kind of staffing questions offline, but we'll come back, we'll keep you apprised on the capacity challenges.
Answer right now.
I also we only have 5 minutes left for this item, and I wanted to ask, are we going to show them the really cool yard sign designs that you guys are doing?
Well, before you start,
Yes.
I just want to make sure I understand. You are suggesting to the TSP, through the TSP, to lower speed limits to 20 on greenways only or everywhere?
I'm proposing everywhere. That's, I mean, the local folks have said, hey, we want to reduce it down to 20 miles per hour, right? So my question through the TSP would be both.
Okay.
But at least the Greenway would, I don't need anybody's approval to do the Greenway, right? Like I would implement the Greenway on local neighborhood routes. Wouldn't necessarily be for a collector street Greenway. Just like Stanley and Monroe.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I ask one question? Can I ask two questions? Thank you.
Go for 3.
So is lowering the speed limit to 20 miles per hour, does it actually lower speeds?
Not necessarily.
I didn't think so.
But it does make people aware. It would say, this Greenway, we have data that shows people are going 20 miles per hour. So not a bad thing, but your overall question to put it everywhere, to sign it everywhere, yeah, might not be worthwhile.
I was gonna say, Portland's had it long enough that maybe they have some studies
Have some
about
studies.
the impact.
They also did a big 20 is plenty campaign, and it's part of their broader Vision Zero, strategies. But
You're gonna get people that will reduce their speed. You're gonna get people that are absolutely not, right? So it won't solve everything, I guess, is the question. But I think the general public that wants to follow rules, yeah, they're gonna reduce to 20.
Yeah, but I'm with you because I actually did a study at an industrial facility one time because I had all kinds of complaints about all the speed demons we had, and we actually set up, a radar that had a logging capability. And 98% of the people were driving within the speed limit. They were. But, it's like, it's a racetrack out there,
Well, they see one person, right?
I know.
They see one person and it's a racetrack, right? I get that comment all the time.
Yeah.
I do feel we need to move to the next one. Here is our budget. So I'm asking for 10 grand. 10 grand to do the signage and the markings, and install all of that. It would come from the SPOT program. The SPOT program was not in this budget cycle, but it is in the new one. The money that everyone keeps pointing to in this budget cycle was for our ADA ramp project that has been completed and that those funds have been spent. So this, it should never have been called SPOT. It was badly named. I'm sorry about that. But now it'll be called SPOT program in the new budget cycle, and there is $350,000. So do you agree that I can have 10 grand of that to put towards this project?
Absolutely.
Great.
Are we the decider on that?
Only because I'm asking for kind of a dedication and to start doing the signage and moving it forward. So I want to be able to say, hey, this is where it's going to be built to, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, but communication about that decision will be made to PSAC and,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, exactly. And then, so yes, 10 grand for, I would like to also reserve that that's what this program, the SPOT program is going to be about, right? Doing safety improvements in local neighborhoods that aren't on a big CIP project or something, right? So they're not just coming directly to council saying, hey, we need help. No, we want them going to the SPOT program, going through this process and initiating through PSAC to move these forward within that budget cycle.
And just to clarify on the decision-making structure, I think because this was such an important council conversation, that's why we're bringing it back to you. The threshold of this is below what we would bring to council for approval, and we're in a work session, so we can actually make decisions here, but you can just discuss them. But I think we wanted to make sure that before we proceed on this, that this is accomplishing the goals and the objectives that you directed us to proceed with at that March 5th session when we had this discussion. And are we going to see the yard signs? Sorry.
There you go.
Because I do just want to add that this is, you've seen the very official and important engineering pieces. We also heard a lot about placemaking. We heard a lot about making these feel like greenways. One thing that I think you've seen as a success in other cities that have done that is some low cost handing out to residents, letting them put something in their yard that says, hey, this street is different. So in addition to all the amazing engineering work, we are also going to be handing these out to residents who live on 29th.
I think also the best part
I
about
want some of them.
The best part about this is these are not just for 29th Avenue, these are for the city, right? So this is for multiple greenways, we can use them. NDAs could purchase additional ones. We're purchasing a number to start out with, put some on 29th Avenue, and then also to some other potential greenways where, things, it says slow down, right?
Yes.
So.
It's not a front back issue, right? Like I don't live on a greenway, but I would like to tell people to slow the clock down on my street. So like,
Yes, they are two separate signs, and each sign will be double-sided. You can have some slow the clock.
This is not the Oregon State flag.
yeah, right.
I think that's all we had, okay.
We are at time. These folks have to eat dinner. I just really want to say a couple quick thank yous. The engineering team, you've heard about the palpitating anxiety, about the lack of capacity, they're understaffed. And this was a pivot. This did push off some other work, but they really took it on. I mean, multiple community meetings this week alone, lots of time spent out on 29th. I so appreciate it. I appreciate the innovation and creativity and the dedication to our shared goals. I want to appreciate Jacob and the community for also taking the time to meet with us and collaborate on this. I think we've reached a good point. We appreciate the continued dialogue. You saw some of Jacob's comments even from today that are on there on the things we're going to continue to look at and explore. But real big thanks to Jen and Josh, the newest member of our engineering team, who's done a great job leading this.
Put the new guy in charge of 29th.
You know it. You're nice that way.
Overloaded.
And we have 3 of them.
Part-time hiring.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Josh.
Proprietary rights for that first one.
I don't know, I wasn't in charge of all the things, right?
Rebecca,
Starship's coming for us for sure.
those are things where you ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
I have a very large portable speaker that fits in our cargo bike. Saying,
Oh, actually, did you know this is Jason Wetton's? This is his bike.